Hey everybody, welcome back to the Timocrates channel. I'm here with another video for you today. I'm trying to keep up with a weekly uploads kind of deal here. It's very difficult for me, but I got a lot of really good feedback on my video from last week about dating and 9-to-5 jobs for everybody and things like that. Highly recommend going and checking that one out. But because I got so much good feedback from that video and the TikToks I clipped up from it, I'm going to go ahead and continue the trend and make a very similar video, but this time the topic is going to be much different from last time. Though I do have for next week another video about the dating economy planned, so stay tuned for that one. I think you'll really enjoy it. But this week we're going to be talking about a different aspect of American culture that I kind of see getting brushed under the rug. We're going to talk a little bit about the use of Ozempic as a weight loss drug and why that's not a good thing. I think that there are multiple different cultural aspects that we're going to pull in here for this conversation that I just don't see being brought up. I do see people talking about using Ozempic as a weight loss tool and why that might not be a good idea, but I don't really see people highlighting some of the other aspects that I'm going to be highlighting in this video. So to begin, let's first explain for those who don't know what the hell Ozempic even is. So Ozempic is a drug developed to help treat type 2 diabetes, and what it essentially does is it's an injection that you take, and once you get injected, it helps your pancreas regulate the output of insulin into your bloodstream. This is very important for diabetics because diabetics have issues with insulin. Easy. However, an off-label use of this drug has started to occur recently, where people will get the Ozempic injections who don't have diabetes for the purpose of helping them lose fat and weight. This is bad on a multiple level approach here. So first of all, why the hell are they prescribing this? Why are doctors prescribing this to patients who don't have type 2 diabetes? Second of all, the FDA has only approved the use of Ozempic for type 2 diabetes treatment. So it's a little bit strange that it's become so widespread that people are getting Ozempic injections for the purpose of weight loss. I know that off-label uses are very common in pharmaceuticals and it happens all the time, so I'm not really dogging the doctors as much or the FDA as much, because this is something that does happen often, but I think that it has some extremely negative implications and impacts on the way that people think about weight loss. So what I'm starting to notice and what I'm considering a problem is that people are associating body weight directly with health. And that's just extremely dangerous to think of, because there are plenty of people who are too skinny that are having seriously poor health outcomes because of it, and there are obviously people who are overweight that are having seriously poor outcomes because of it. However, taking a drug that just reduces your body fat isn't going to really make you more healthy. It might make you look more appealing because that's the typical beauty standard that we adhere to in the United States, that skinnier is better in most circumstances, or at least more cut and muscular, for in the case of men, is the standard in the United States. However, I think it's really important to talk about how Ozempic is not... You shouldn't use it for the purpose of weight loss. And there's a couple of reasons that I have why you shouldn't use it for the purpose of weight loss. So the first reason is that because of this association that people have in their minds between weight loss and fat loss and being healthier, we have this group of people who are extremely overweight and have very bad behaviors that got them to the point where they are extremely overweight. And now they're going to use Ozempic and consider it a cure-all because in studies of Ozempic, it's been shown that people will typically lose between 15% and 20% of their body mass just from using Ozempic, which is a very substantial difference. That's a huge amount of weight loss. Let's consider somebody who's 400 pounds. That 15 or 20% body mass loss is a huge amount of weight. That is a shitload of weight. Like, we're talking like getting close to 100 pounds, right? Here, hold on. Let me run the numbers really quick. But I will say, in the meantime, while I'm running the numbers, that it doesn't make sense to use it as a weight loss tool because it doesn't actually address the underlying health issues that people are creating for themselves by engaging in these bad behaviors that make them extraordinarily overweight to begin with. For example, people who are really overweight typically have higher incidences of coronary issues, heart attack, stroke, high blood pressure, the whole gambit of coronary problems. Taking Ozempic and being less overweight isn't going to change their cholesterol that's being built up in their body simply from taking Ozempic. Simply losing weight isn't going to make your heart healthier. It's not going to make your brain function better. It's not going to make your blood flow improved. It's not going to actually help to strengthen your health. It's just going to make you smaller. And the thing that I want to point out is that if you go into using Ozempic for the purpose of weight loss, one of the big problems that you're going to see is that people are going to be using Ozempic to lose a ton of weight really fast, and they're not going to adjust their behaviors at all. So they're still going to have an increased likelihood of coronary events such as heart attack and stroke, and that can only be addressed through either additional medications that reduce the chances that those things are going to happen, or diet and exercise. And this is the first thing that I want to get into that I don't see a whole lot of people talking about in the conversation with Ozempic as a weight loss tool. The first problem that I really want to highlight here is that diet and exercise are by far the best, most reliable, and most efficient, I shouldn't say efficient, effective ways of losing weight and staying healthy. I understand that there's a group of people who are going to jump down my throat for even bringing up the word exercise and bringing up the word diet. However, and I really do mean this, it is impossible for you to be healthy and not diet or exercise. I'm not saying that you have to go to the gym every single day in order for you to be healthy. However, in order for you to have a healthy set of muscles, healthy organs, you do have to exercise. For example, the American Heart Association actually recommends at least 2 hours of cardiovascular activity every single week. So if you're living a sedentary lifestyle where you just go to work from 9 to 5 and then you come home and just sit in front of the computer or television for the rest of the night and then go to bed, and that's just your routine, you're at an increased risk of cardiovascular events such as stroke and heart attack. You can't be healthy. You cannot say that you have a healthy heart unless you are exercising. It is not possible. You don't. You might have a good enough heart. You might have a it's okay heart. But you're not going to have a healthy heart unless you are exercising and engaging in cardiovascular activity, such as running, lifting weights, playing sports, the whole gambit of random things that you can do for exercise. And quite frankly, as I'm sure we all can gather, the American Heart Association, just like most organizations of their variety, is going to give everybody the minimum possible recommendation that they could reasonably get away with. So 2 hours you should consider your absolute starting point for what would be considered a healthy amount of cardiovascular activity. And then we also come to diet. As I was already mentioning, the cholesterol in your body doesn't just disappear because you've started taking Ozempic. your arteries are still clogged with all of that cholesterol from the hamburgers, cheeseburgers, chicken nuggets, fried chicken, and french fries that you're consuming on an extremely daily basis, or a very frequent basis, rather. Those things don't just vanish into thin air. You don't just suddenly not have cholesterol in your arteries anymore because you're skinnier. It does not work that way. Your body's weight loss functions are not an on-off switch, regardless of what the TikToks will tell you about weight loss, where you can just swallow a fucking lemon and burn belly fat. I hope nobody believes those videos, but I'm sure there are people out there who do, and I see them all the fucking time. It's the clowniest shit I've ever seen. However, getting back to our point here, I never did the math that I promised you guys I would do, so let's do 400. Let's use 20% as our marker. That's 80 pounds. 80 pounds is how much you would lose if you hit the 20% mark of weight loss that is typical of Ozempic usage for weight loss. However, I just wanted to make sure I did my due diligence and got you guys the math I promised you. But the next thing that we're going to talk about is diet. So we're going to come back to exercise in a second here, but right now we're going to talk about dieting again. So diet, as I was just talking about, influences the cholesterol in your body. It influences the amount of insulin your body makes. Your blood glucose is directly impacted by the diet that you're consuming. There's no argument about it. That's just how it is. If you consume foods that make your glucose levels spike, your glucose levels are gonna spike in your blood, and that can wreak all kinds of havoc. And there is something to be said about eating comfort foods every now and then. But let's be real here, and we all know this. Eating fried chicken every single day of the week and french fries and tons of fried food is going to increase your triglyceride and cholesterol levels. I don't think I'm saying anything controversial here. I know that some people are going to jump down my throat for talking about how consuming a healthy diet is good for you, but let's get more specific and just talk about the cholesterol levels. Consuming all of these foods increases your cholesterol levels. They also happen to be extremely high in calories. That's why you can reasonably assume that if someone is, I don't know, like 400 pounds, and I'm not talking about muscular here, you can reasonably assume that that person eats a lot of those extremely calorie-dense fried foods. It's very easy to assume that. Or, on the flip side, they could be consuming extremely sugary, calorically dense foods. Either or. We can take your pick of the deck of cards here. But typically, there's a reason why people are overweight. It's because they don't exercise enough, and/or they don't have a healthy enough diet. Are we good here? Are we straight? Because I know that's controversial for some people in certain cultural movements that we have going on here in the United States and abroad even at this point, unfortunately. But it is the case that people who are overweight because they are consuming a calorie surplus and low quality foods and/or low quality foods. Could be both, could be one or the other. That's just the reality of the situation. That's the reality of the situation. I'm not talking about occasionally having a comfort food every now and then here. If you're 400 pounds plus, you either have an extremely rare, and extremely terrible disease that forces you to just gain weight en masse. Very rare. I'd say that maybe if 1 million people tell you that they have a condition that makes them extremely overweight like that, you should believe one of them. Just one. Because quite frankly, it's not that common to have diseases like that. It isn't. It's not that common. I know I'm going to get a lot of bitching about this because every single fat person I meet seems to have the excuse that they have some kind of genetic disposition or some kind of disease that makes them put on a lot of weight very quickly. But if you actually look at it from a statistics perspective, most of them are lying to you. Most likely, most of them are lying to you. So let's just accept that and move on. So, now that I've concluded that the only actual way to truly be healthy is to have a healthy diet and have a healthy exercise routine, let's talk about the benefits of having a healthy exercise routine, because recently, especially on TikTok and Twitter in particular, I have been seeing this huge wave of people talking about how they're not going to exercise and they're still healthy even though they don't exercise. No, you're not. It's not possible. And let me explain to you exactly why that's not possible. Exercise makes your muscles healthy. Exercise makes your organs healthy. Exercise makes your brain healthy. Exercise makes your body work correctly. You are evolved for hundreds of thousands, even millions of years at this point, to exercise in order to be healthy. Your body is designed to exercise in order to be healthy. And I'm not talking about people exercising and lifting weights because I said healthy muscles. I'm not talking about getting huge, right? I'm not talking about getting super strong. I'm talking about having proper muscle function to begin with. You need to exercise. Muscle atrophy is a real thing. And for people who are extremely overweight, muscular atrophy does occur, especially in the muscles of the lower back. That's why oftentimes you'll see people who will start waddling like this when they're really heavy in order to walk, or they'll end up in wheelchairs and have extremely powerful lower back pain whenever they try to walk after that. It's because the muscles in the lower back begin to atrophy when you're at a certain point of being overweight for a certain period of time without exercising. That's why it is possible, like I mentioned earlier, to be overweight and still be extremely healthy and in good shape and your muscles function perfectly fine. It's because you're consistently strengthening those muscles and working them. Not to the point of complete exhaustion, like in somebody who's 400 plus pounds, but to the point where your muscles can function properly. There's also aspects of diet that tie into the exercise. For example, you have to make sure that you're getting proper levels of sodium, magnesium, calcium, potassium, chloride, all the good electrolytes in order that power your muscles to work. Keep in mind, I know I keep referring to the heart a lot here, but it is a very important part of your body. In order for your heart to function properly, which is a muscle, it needs these electrolytes in order to function. In people who have extremely bad deficiencies of things like magnesium, sodium, chloride, potassium, calcium, their heart will cramp and fail. It just will. Your heart will fail if you have an extreme deficiency of any of these things, which is another reason why diet, healthy dieting, is so important. Now, another argument that I hear from certain positivity groups is that, well, your brain can't function without X amount of grams of sugar going into your body every single day. And you're totally correct. I actually give them a point for that one, more like a half point. And let me explain why it's only a half point. You're right. Your brain needs a shitload of glucose in order to function properly. Tons. It is a powerful thing going on up here, right? Boggling around in your skull bone. However, the fat on your body gets converted into glucose when you're not consuming an excess of foods in order to power your brain and other organs. So that argument doesn't really hold a whole lot of weight. You shouldn't be encouraging people to consume 300 grams of glucose every day, or whatever the conversion would be depending on the sugar that they're consuming, because every sugar has a different conversion rate into glucose, because our bodies aren't 100% efficient. But once you take that out of the equation, you realize that people who have fat on their bodies have a store of glucose ready to go to their brain. So the argument doesn't really hold a whole lot of weight, because you have the fat stored on your body for that purpose. The only time when their argument would make any sense at all is if somebody was in the 0 to 5% body fat range. If you're in the 0 to 5% body fat range, which is considered like the red zone of unhealthy body fat ranges, especially in men, and especially in women. But if you're in that 0 to 5% fat percentage zone, yeah, their argument does hold some weight because you don't have the fat stores on your body to replenish the glucose that your brain requires. So their argument does hold weight, but it seems to me like these people who have this approach and this belief, they seem to really be under the impression that you just passively put on weight. You don't do anything and you just get fat. But that's not the case. And they also seem to think that the only nutrients in your body are the ones you are currently stuffing in your face. But that's also not true. Like I said, fat stores do exist on our body. We do have lipids in our body for a reason. They're there to convert into glucose, which in this specific instance that they're bringing up, powers your brain. So if one day, for example, I'm at 15% body fat, 12 to 15, depending on what's going on in my life, if I'm preparing for our competition or not. But I have some fat on my body. I don't need to consume 300 grams of sugar or glucose equivalent in order for my body to produce enough glucose for my brain to function at 100%. Because it will simply convert the fat stores into blood glucose, which go to your brain and power it. Like I said, the only time that this would be a concern is if you have so little body fat that there's not enough to convert into enough glucose left. But good luck getting to that low of a body fat percentage. In the United States, at least, for 0 to 5% for men, we're talking about less than 1% of the entire population that can say that they're in that level. I would guess. I don't have the actual numbers on that one, but it's a very small percentage of people. So the next thing that I'm going to bring here is some psychological stuff. As you all know, I have my master's in industrial and organizational psychology. It's my background, so of course, I got to rope the psychology in here. What I want to say about Ozempic as a weight loss tool from a psychological perspective is that I find it extremely offensive, stigmatizing, and culturally significant that people turn to Ozempic as a weight loss tool when they're not even very overweight. For example, I know multiple men who are about 200 pounds that have decided to try Ozempic for weight loss, and they're only 200 pounds, and they're like 5'10", 6 feet tall. That's really not that overweight. It is technically overweight, but it's not like it's ridiculously overweight to the point where you would need to take a medication. So the thing that I'm trying to highlight here from a cultural perspective is that people don't need it and think that they do, and it kind of amplifies this pill popping mentality in the United States that exists, where it's, I have a problem, boink, bzz, solved. My problem's solved now. I'm perfectly healthy now. Boop, bzz, I'm healthy again. That's great. But quite frankly, we all know that that's just not how it works. That didn't remove the cholesterol in their heart. That didn't make their muscles function properly. It didn't help with electrolyte balance. It didn't help with protein intake. It didn't help with carbohydrate intake. It didn't help with soluble fat intake. It just made you skinnier. And the second you stop taking it, you're going to go back to the same weight that you already were if there's not behavior change. So what I'm advocating here as a psychologist is that we need to stop prescribing Ozempic to people purely for weight loss that don't have type 2 diabetes, because it's reinforcing an unhealthy standard that you can just simply take a pill and you're perfectly healthy now, nothing to worry about. This causes some serious other problems for me as well, and I consider this part the highlight of my video that I want everybody to really, really focus on. I think that culturally, Ozempic is having an impact, and it's not solely responsible. I'm not blaming just Ozempic for this, but I think that people over time, especially in the United States, have become less disciplined. And I think that discipline is extremely important. I think that just simply taking the easy way out and taking Ozempic in order to lose some weight is bad. And I'm putting that as nicely as I can. I think that the lack of discipline is extremely bad simply because it shows itself in the way that, let's take young men for example. In the 1950s, there was no easy way out. You simply had to work hard. You had to go build the bridge. You had to go build the roads in order for your town to function properly. There was discipline. Things work because people are disciplined. As a society, we do great things because people are disciplined. The Statue of Liberty was not built by lazy fat people who just took pills in order to lose weight. The Statue of Liberty was built by people who were determined and disciplined enough to do it. Without the discipline, it's very difficult to accomplish great things. This shows up in workplaces, this shows up in education systems, this shows up in all of society, in all walks of life. People are walking around with literally zero discipline. And I understand that there's going to be a very large contingent of people who hear this and say, but Tom, discipline doesn't matter. This is your toxic masculinity talking, blah, 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 yap, yap, yap. I understand why it might come off as though I'm being harsh or being pushy or advocating for some kind of old school masculinity approach here, but that's not what I'm trying to do either. I think that being disciplined is just inherently good for you. It is inherently rewarding to be disciplined. It makes you feel good when you have the discipline to accomplish the goals that you set out to accomplish. If you simply set your New Year's resolution and then never do it, you will continue walking through life as exactly the same person, none the wiser of what you could have become. Ever. But if you have the discipline to set a goal for yourself and then accomplish that goal that you've set out for yourself, it is inherently rewarding that you accomplish that goal. It releases all the good hormones, it makes you feel good, and quite frankly, it improves your life. I mean, there are people who are going to say, well, what if you're super disciplined and you're a serial killer? Yeah, that's bad for society, obviously. But I think that we can agree that overall, discipline is extremely important, and it's something that's just not being taught to people anymore. And discipline is not a natural occurrence. You aren't just naturally disciplined. Discipline is learned and trained and forged in fire. You cannot get disciplined any other way. And it sucks, because we used to be a nation of people who created great things and did amazing things and human feats of intelligence and strength and coming together and making things fucking happen. But somewhere along the line, and I'm not going to talk about when, where, why, or how, because I don't know. It's too complex of a equation here to talk about in one 30-minute video. But I will tell you that I think that somewhere over time, we've lost that discipline element of the United States. People just don't care anymore. People aren't disciplined. They don't care to go out and exercise. They quit their job after only a year of working on it because it gets too difficult and they want something else. They give up on projects that they do in the meantime. There are so many people who just want so desperately to become a YouTuber or become a streamer or become a social media influencer, and they'll step on the gas, hard brake. They'll step on the gas, hard brake. And then they find out 5 years later, they're just spinning their wheels in the mud. And I understand this experience because I've done it too. I have been in situations where I'm just spinning the wheels in the mud, trying to become a YouTuber or a Twitch streamer in my case specifically. And I just keep spinning the wheels. And it just doesn't work very well and doesn't get anybody anywhere, me included. I've made this mistake. We're all human. Everybody needs a little bit more discipline in their lives. It is only a good thing. And I don't know when it happened, that people started to consider discipline to be a negative quality, because I've seen a lot of people who will look at, for example, like a strong male figure, and he's really disciplined in his actions. He goes to work out every day, does his job as hard as he possibly can, works hard, takes care of his wife, does everything he can. He is disciplined. And people will just tear him apart because of one little aspect of him that they don't like. And I think that this is part of the reason why discipline has disappeared. People aren't getting rewarded for their discipline as much as they used to. It used to be like in the 1950s, 60s, 70s, that discipline was extremely rewarding. It was great. If you were disciplined, you would get promotions at work, you would get raises at work, you would get stronger, you would become more famous, you would do the thing and reap the rewards. But now it feels less like people are being rewarded for discipline and more like they're being torn down left and right for discipline. And I kind of feel like this shows itself in the way that people are using Ozempic to lose weight instead of just getting off their ass, dieting properly, and exercising properly. It is not that hard. And I know that there's going to be people who say, oh, but I'm too busy, blah, 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 yap, 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 yap. There is nobody, no one, not a single fucking person on planet Earth that cannot exercise for 15 minutes a day. Not a single fucking person on all of planet Earth actually can't exercise for 15 minutes a day. It's not possible. I mean, for the most part, outside of the United States, just working for them normally is 15 minutes minimum of working out, because most of their jobs are physical labor, right? And outside of Western Europe, and you guys understand what I'm saying, outside of the first world. So even they are working out for at least 15 minutes. There's no excuse, and quite frankly, I'm tired of hearing people make excuses for just being lazy as fuck. I'm tired of hearing people make the excuse that it's okay that I didn't work out today for 15 minutes simply because they went to work that day and sat at a desk for 8 hours. I'm sorry, but it's not a good excuse. It isn't. And this is where discipline comes in. You need to be disciplined enough to say, no, you know what? Even though I don't feel like it, I'm going to work out right now. No, you know what? Even though I don't feel like it, I'm going to finish that project that I started right now. And it is a struggle. It's not easy. Being alive isn't easy, but you have to do it in order for society to function properly. And I think that right now, the people who are disciplined in the United States, it's dwindling away day by day. They've taken it from us. I don't know who they is. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but at some point down the line, the discipline was taken out of Americans. They don't give a fuck anymore. People will not even get off their ass to go for a run. People won't go outside. And it's a serious problem, and I just wanted to highlight that because I feel like it connects really well, actually, to the use of Ozempic as a weight loss drug, and I think it's the perfect analogy to a lack of discipline in the citizens of the U.S. And honestly, I'm a citizen of the U.S. I'm calling us out. Get off your fucking asses. I'm tired of this. We used to win every fucking Olympic event known to man, and we still win most of them, but quite frankly, it's not good enough. We need perfection. We need absolute perfection and discipline, and that is the only thing that will possibly satisfy me, at least, and quite frankly, it should be the only thing that would satisfy you. And the fact that it's not the things that would satisfy you is part of the problem. That's why we need discipline. Now, I'm not trying to say that everything is horrible, the world's falling apart. I just wanted to highlight this little aspect of life that is people using Ozempic as a weight loss tool, and I wanted to connect it to discipline. I'm actually working on another video about the merits of discipline together, so remember to hit that subscribe button and the bell icon so that you can get notified the second that I drop that video. And now we're going to come back into Ozempic, give a little conclusion, wrap it up in a nice little bow. So I advocate for not going and using Ozempic, the type 2 diabetes medication that was approved by the FDA for exclusively that purpose, as a weight loss tool. And the reason that I'm saying that is because it doesn't increase the risk or decrease the risk of cardiovascular events such as heart attack and stroke. It doesn't decrease the prevalence of cholesterol in your system. It doesn't help you with your diet. It doesn't make your muscles healthier. It doesn't make your organs healthier. And it certainly doesn't make your brain healthier. And for those reasons, I'm advocating that instead of trying Ozempic, you go on a diet plan and a exercise plan for at least 3 months. Just try it. No exceptions. Discipline yourself. And that's what I wanted to talk about in this video. Thank you for joining me. I really hope that you found this information fun. As always, if you enjoyed what you heard here, go ahead and leave a comment. I always appreciate it. I'm really trying this new formula out here for my videos because, quite frankly, I like it quite a lot, and it seems like you guys are enjoying it too. So please go ahead and leave a comment. It helps me to know that you guys are enjoying these videos. And of course, I'll see you next week in my next video. Next time, we're going to be talking about self-improvement and why it's important for the development of relationships, specifically, again, in the United States. And that one's going to get really spicy, so tune in for that one. Have a nice day, guys. Bye, everybody.